Welcome back everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about a book that talks about the constitution and how constitution impacted the citizens just after it was implemented after the independence of India, and how some citizens who were impacted negatively by some laws that were enacted by the legislature approached courts to ask for the implementation of their rights. The name of this book is A People's Constitution: The Everyday Life of Law in the Indian Republic, and it's written by Professor Rohit. So this book was written by author Rohit, who is an associate professor of history at Yale University, and he's also a lawyer. He went into the archives of the Supreme Court of India, and he was the first scholar to be granted this opportunity to go into the archives of the Supreme Court and really look at the case files, not just the judgments. Judgments are available for all and sundry, and anybody can look at those. And so many scholars write their work, critique the judgments and do all of the works on the judgments. And on so many important judgments, there are even hundreds of critiques that are written. But this author went into the archives and took out the case files and got to know exactly what were the prayers that were made by the petitioners, and what were the arguments that were made by the state, and what exactly transpired. So this book talks about four very important aspects of any person's life, and they are food, drink as in alcohol, sex, and commodities. So the first chapter in the book is about prohibition, and there was this law in the Bombay jurisdiction that prohibited sale of alcohol and possession of alcohol in any manner. And this law was so arbitrary, and it said that it was so so much out of the limits that if a policeman merely suspected that you had consumed alcohol, you could be arrested. There was no need for any proof or any blood test that would prove that that you had consumed it. So there was this man who was impacted and victimized because of this. He approached the Bombay High Court, and the Bombay High Court struck down various provisions of this act, and it was then finally taken by the government to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court moderated the decision and revived some of the provisions of the act, but said that the alcohol cannot be banned totally because it has many other purposes other than consumption. So if somebody was taking it as a medicine, they could take it, or if somebody used it in the perfume, they could have it. So things like that happen. And then what started to happen was that there were so many advertisements in the newspapers and things like that this is the herbal tonic that we are selling. But what the herbal tonic would have mostly is alcohol in it and a few other things. So in this way, people would say that this is a mere medicine and I'm using it for medicinal purposes, but what it actually was alcohol. So the government now realized that it is a waste of resources to try to implement this law, so they liberalized the whole prohibition regime in Bombay. Another thing about this book is that every case, the four cases that we will be talking about, impacted a particular community the most. So sometimes the whole community went to the court, but other times a person went to the court, but the community crowdfunded the litigation. So here, the community that was impacted the most was the Parsi community, because of the simple reason that they were engaged in a huge trade and business in alcohol. And the next case that this book talks about, and the name of this case is Harishankar Bagla versus State of MP. As we know that when India became independent, it was a planned economy, it was a closed economy, so there were restrictions upon how much of quantity of a certain thing that you could possess. So there was this Marwari couple, and as we know that Marwari people engage in lots of certain kind of trades, and this couple was traveling in a train, and they were arrested because of this thing that they had in their possession cloth more than they were allowed under the law. So this couple was arrested, and they challenged this law in the court, and this case is one of the more technical ones, and you might even find it boring, so please read it yourself. And this case shows how it was everything was very regulated. There was this license Raj, there was this quota Raj, where you could not possess things as much as you wanted, and how liberalization eased our lives. And I was born after liberalization, so I had no idea that so much stringent rules were imposed. So and even today we have Essential Commodities Act, but it is not used for things that we need in everyday life. For example, when the pandemic struck, it was invoked for certain medicines and certain things, to ensure that the the supply of those things was put in place, and nobody hoarded these things. And the third case that the book talks about is Hanif Qureshi case. And in this case, not the whole community, but 3,000 people from the community approached the Supreme Court saying that there's this law that bans the slaughter of cows. And because we are from the Qureshi community, we are the ones who are engaged in cow meat trade, and it directly impacts us, and it also impacts our fundamental right to engage in trade and business. So there was this. So these people approached the court, and the Supreme Court gave a middle path and tried to do the balancing act by saying that you cannot butcher the cows that are productive, but if there is an unproductive cow, then you can butcher her. And if there is an old cattle, then you can do it and you can carry on your trade. So they came in the middle path. But there was this very interesting information that came out during this case, that if the court had ruled that even unproductive and old cows will have to be taken care of either by the owner or the state, then already the state was spending more on the upkeep of such cows who were left by their owners because of being unproductive. They were spending more on these cows than on a child in the state, for the child's nutrition or for the education of the child. So this is one of the cases where the court is also criticized for siding with the majority, and saying that that you cannot do it because otherwise you can butcher any animal, right? But there is also this religious angle involved. The Muslim community also argued that there are some festivities where they have to butcher cows because it's ingrained in their religion. But then the court said that it's not that you have to mandatorily do it. You can butcher a camel as well. So these kind of things, and the sentiments were involved. So it's very interesting case. The fourth case is about Husnabai versus state of UP, and this case is about Suppression of Immoral Trafficking Act. Its short form is Sita Act. So under this act, prostitution was considered to be not properly illegal, but not fully illegal. But if a DM believed that that you are engaging in prostitution and that you are creating nuisance in the area, he can ask you to get out of the jurisdiction of his district. So there was this lady in UP. Her name was Husnabai, and she approached the Allahabad High Court saying that yes, I am a prostitute, and this law is directly impinging on my fundamental right to engage in trade and business, and that it also impinges on my right to life and livelihood. And also some of the members of my family have also been charged with some offences, because there was another provision in the act that said that if you are maintaining your lifestyle based on the income that a prostitute is earning, then you will also be liable. So this was a very interesting case that I read in this book. There's also another discussion, because in India we are very unsure about if prostitution is legal or not. Even my law professors are of two minds on it. We are getting through it because they believe that it is purely illegal, that it is completely illegal in India, but I believe that it is legal, but with so many riders. For example, say this act still stands. It says that you cannot practice prostitution near a school, near a hotel, near a nursing home, near a hospital, and so many other things. And it also has this provision that if a DM believes that you have to go out, then you have to go out. And this act was then it was upheld by the Supreme Court. And there was this very interesting argument that was advanced by the side that wanted this law to be struck down. It said that what if every DM of every district in India ordered you to get out of his jurisdiction, then what will the prostitute do? Then they asked, will that lady have to be deported out of India? not trying to single out women prostitutes. I do believe that there are male prostitutes as well, but the case I'm talking about. So the Supreme Court said that it is quite a fiction that you are going to believe that every DM is going to ask you to go out. So the court in a way upheld this law. So these are the kind of very interesting cases that the author talks about, and these were the cases that were filed in like 1950s, 60s, when the courts were not even very confident of their rules because of their role after the constitution was enacted. But so many the courts tried to uphold the fundamental rights of citizens, and also try to strike a balance and bring about communal harmony in the country. And also this book talks about how the government was not very comfortable with how courts were seeing constitution in its truest sense. For example, if the constitution says that you have a right to trade and do business and do it, then why would it impose so many restrictions upon prostitution? Because if seen in that sense, it is a kind of trade. And but then there was this thing about how public morality is involved, and it is considered to be immoral. So this book is very interesting, and you get to learn a lot about how India evolved, how the courts really found their voices through all these cases where citizens wanted to get their rights not through the government but through the court, and wanted the courts to issue mandamus to the governments to give them the rights that they deserved under the constitution. So thank you very much for watching. I know that some of my new friends from the university are watching also, so welcome to my channel, and thank you very much for watching. I'll be back next Sunday with a new book review. Till then, take care, stay safe. Thank you very much for watching.